Time continues to pass in the English countryside as we follow Spike, who has been apprehended by a group of sadistic murderers. The only thing that could possibly save him from a terrible fate is crossing paths with Dr. Ian Kelson, who continues to build his memorial to the victims of the rage virus. It's 28 years later, The Bone Temple. I'm Ronald Young Jr., and I'm leaving the theater. All right, this is Ronald, and I am leaving the theater after seeing 28 years later, The Bone Temple. 28 years later, The Bone Temple. Written by Alex Garland, directed by Nia DaCosta, starring Ray Fiennes, Jack O'Connell, Alfie Williams, Erin Kellyman, and Lewis-Parry. And as usual, for a complete listing of the cast and crew, check out the link in our show notes. It is just me today. I reviewed 28 years later on my own as well, so this feels appropriate to continue the brief but serious tradition that I have established for this movie and its sequel only. This has been Ronald. I feel a little silly today. Bear with me. 28 years later, The Bone Temple, and I keep calling it The Bone Zone in my head. 28 years later, The Bone Zone. 28 years later, The Bone Temple is a sequel to last year's 28 Years Later, which is a sequel to 28 Weeks Later, which is a sequel to 28 Days Later. It might have been months. I don't know. I think it's weeks. I think the second one was weeks. They still haven't done months. Anyway, which is the whole franchise is about this rage virus that infects people and causes them to turn into kind of zombie-like creatures that go around killing, maiming, and eating everyone who does not have the rage virus. I'm not going to get too deep into the lore of all of the films. I will just talk about this one. This one in particular follows a young boy named Spike, who was in the first film and was a part of a community and found himself separated from the community with his mother as he tried to find a cure for her cancer. And in this one, he is alone and he finds himself in a situation where he is held against his will by a group called the Jimmies, led by Jack O'Connell, the same Jack O'Connell who was in Sinners, a man who seems to be very, very good at playing these types of roles. I did not like this movie as much as I liked 28 Years Later. Based on the enthusiasm of the crowd, I might be in the minority of my opinion. But I will say, in the first third of the film, there is some pretty graphic violence and torture that is not zombie related. There are a couple things that are zombie related that I felt like I was used to, and because they were mindless zombies doing it to humans or to other zombies, I felt pretty indifferent about that. But there's some pretty unique human on human torture. And when I say torture, I mean torture. I mean torture. If you're going to see this film, I need you to know that there is torture early in this movie. And when I say early, I mean like maybe 20, 25 minutes in. It's hard. It's really, really hard. In a way that, I'll put it this way. If you see the Jimmies on screen in the first half of this movie, I wouldn't be eating. or anything like that. Like, even if you're I don't know, maybe you're not squeamish like I am. The torture was so bad that it almost turned me off to the movie completely. I almost left. Whenever I see a depraved act or something that's super violent in a film, the question I always ask is, why is this being shown to me? Typically, you get an answer later in the film. And in this film, we do get an answer. Why I don't like this type of violence is because it makes me, as an audience member, bloodthirsty in a way that I don't like to be, and in a way that I don't go to the movies for. For instance, I Spit on Your Grave or The Last House on the Left. Those are films where something so heinous happens in the film that the makeup for it is even more heinous, and you as an audience member tend to root for it in ways that just, it makes me uncomfortable. It makes me question who I am. And especially right now in 2026, it feels so tough to watch something like that, knowing what's happening in the world right now. That's not why I go to the movies. So the first third of this is just, it really almost turned me off. And then it gets better and I'd say like first third through the middle is like, oh no. And then middle through the end, and the movie's only about an hour and 45 minutes, which excellent. If you're going to do this to me, make sure you turn it around quickly. There's a storyline with the Jimmies, and there's a storyline with the doctor, Ray Fiennes. And the storyline with the doctor, from beginning to end, I really enjoyed. Every aspect of it, I really liked it. I thought it was very good. The storyline with the Jimmies, I did not enjoy as much, and I think they could have gotten to their point quicker. In a lot of ways, even the ways in which the Jimmy storyline and the doctor storyline intertwine didn't necessarily feel like it needed to go down that way. It felt like there could have been another way for them to get to their point still. I talked to some of my colleagues after the film, which is always kind of cool to have a little conversation before I go record, because it allows me to organize my thoughts a little bit better in conversation. And there were varied opinions about what we had just seen. And I think for my friend Mike Katzif from Pop Culture Happy Hour, he is one of the producers over there. He pointed out a few things about this film that, for me, I don't know if I agree with, but I do want to acknowledge that people will see it that way. And that is that there's a sense of cult leader-ishness to the leader of the Jimmies. I'm sorry. So the Jimmies are this band of kind of roving band of killers that roam the countryside, hurting, maiming, and torturing people. They do not have the rage. They do not have the rage virus. They are just doing this for fun. It's one of the most upsetting parts of the film. And his take on it was a little bit different from mine. His take was that this idea that this little boy who watched his father die and watched his community be killed by these people with the rage virus would have an effed up mentality. He was 8, 28 years later, so he's 36 now, so he's going to have a messed up mind. But I felt like the movie didn't necessarily prove that point, because there were several instances in which we know that Jimmy is feeding his acolytes, his followers, his cult members, his church members, his congregation. I know he's feeding them nonsense. And because I know he's feeding them nonsense, it's tougher for me to believe that he's actually warped in that he's been deceived. He has not been deceived. He is choosing to do this for whatever reason. And I need to know what that motivation is, because the one that you've given me, we already know that it's nonsense. So I don't buy it for that reason. But again, there's another whole movie in here that I like, which is the doctor, who is gathering bodies, burning the dead, collecting their bones, and kind of making a bit of a graveyard, as he calls it in this one. And I think calling this movie The Bone Temple was a bad idea, because most of what the Bone Temple is explained in 28 years later, in the first one of these two. In this one, the story does not revolve around the Bone Temple. It does not. There are some parts in the preview that you've seen, and there's parts in the poster that are prominently displaying the Bone Temple, which make the movie poster and the trailer work. But in terms of the movie, I don't think it worked, because it's not about the Bone Temple at all. We already know what it is. If you watch 28 Years Later, there's nothing more about the Bone Temple in this one that is that important to this film that it needed to be called that. As a matter of fact, I remember watching 28 Years Later and learning so much about the Bone Temple that I began to wonder what the second movie was going to be about. And boy, I could have never guessed it, to be honest with you, because as far as I'm concerned, 28 Years Later was 28 Years Later, the Bone Temple, and this one was just a sequel. And back to the Bone Temple, I don't know. Return to, I have no idea. But yeah, I mean, it's y'all heard my top 10. 28 Years Later was one of my favorite movies of 2025. It was one of my favorite movies of 2025. I think it was number 10, if I'm not mistaken. This one, I don't think will make it that high. I don't think it's going to be one of the top 10 not this year. I think it is going to be beloved, and I think it's going to make enough money to get the third one made. However, I just don't think it's just not as good as the first one. And there's aspects of it that are good and other parts that were almost reprehensible for me. But that being said, how do you score a movie like this? I would watch it again. I would absolutely watch it again. The parts that I enjoyed, I really, really enjoyed. I love Ray Fiennes. I would watch it again. I would not go to the theater. I mean, I would watch it on my couch at home. Let's say I was with someone and they were like, "Oh, I haven't seen this one. Do you want to see it?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll watch it." I'd say yes. So for that reason, with all of that being said, I will give this film a 3.5. It's not a 4-star movie by any means. Liked it more than I like Avatar Fire and Ash, which I gave a 3 to. Liked it way more than I liked Marty Supreme, which I gave a 2.992. So yeah, I think it's a 3.5 movie. I'd watch it again. There's parts of it that I enjoyed, but there's parts of it that I would yeet into the ocean, never to be seen ever again. And with that, Leaving the Theater is a production of Oh, It's Big Ron Studios. I mixed this episode, and let me tell y'all, the Patreon is in fuego right now. We are on fire. There is so much good stuff in there right now. We got the ad-free feed. We have multiple episodes of On the Couch. We just added something from Wait For It. We added a conversation with me and Lindy West. There is more coming. I am completely pivoted my strategy where I am trying to do more for the Patreon. Of course, Leaving the Theater will remain the same. If you're listening to it now and you're not a Patreon member, the only difference is that you're listening to it with ads, but there's extras in the Patreon, and we are continuing to add more. I just put out an update video that says what's coming in January, so you can stay tuned for all of that. We've got new episodes of Wait For It coming, the regular Wait For It, as well as Wait For It Extras, which is going to be on the Patreon. And all of this is more labor. Now, let me tell you, because I've reorganized it in a very specific way, it feels better, I would say. I've oriented myself towards the patrons and the people that are giving support to make sure that they are getting more in the Patreon. But to be clear, you supporting me through Patreon is what keeps me going. It's what allows me to come up with new ideas, to make new things. We're working on a new episode of I Don't Like That. I'm going to try to put them out once a month. I have a plan now in a way that I did not before. A lot of you that have been listening to me make this plea for months have probably been saying, well, what exactly is he doing? How is it going? What's going on? This is the time to check. This is the time to check, because we have a lot for you to see in the Patreon right now. If that means something to you, if the labor that I do on Leaving the Theater, on Wait For It, on any of it, on Heartbreaker, which I'm also working on, if all of that means something to you, go to patreon.com/ohitsbigron and become a member. I promise you, it's very helpful. We are going to continue getting better. We have a lot of stuff planned. I have a lot of stuff planned just for this year. I am working very, very hard. This is a labor of love, but it's still labor. If that means something to you, go to patreon.com/ohitsbigron or go to the link in our show notes. Show art from Heather Wilder. Theme music by the mysterious Breakmaster Cylinder. For more information about 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, check out our show notes. You can follow me on Instagram, Blue Sky, TikTok, Threads, or Letterboxd at ohitsbigron. That's at OHITSBIGRON. You can find out more about this show and other Oh It's Big Ron Studio shows by following us on Instagram at Oh It's Big Ron Studios. Leaving the Theater will be back soon. Thanks for listening. I'm Ronald Young Jr., and I'm not zombie related.